What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me we have some more RPG horror stories. I have finally found somebody that has noticed the little pun in the name for Tales Tomorrow. Tales Tomorrow. Not today, tomorrow. But it's also tomorrow. Anyway, and with that, let's get to our first RPG horror story for today. The only merchant in Waterdeep turns into an all-powerful non-compliant necromancer after the prisoner we had to interrogate gets killed by an all-seeing ambusher. This story is mainly about the bad DM practices in one of our early campaigns, hence the light-hearted tag. Premise: we're playing in the second part of the Tyranny of Dragons, so I wouldn't spoil NPC names or anything, but some details of the campaign and setting might come up, so stop here if you're planning to play it. We decided to investigate the sightings of a cult leader in a nearby town after a bit of investigation, and we discovered an empty camp in front of a dungeon. We explore the whole dungeon and find the leader. I'll spare the details because they're irrelevant at this point. We're supposed to bring him to Waterdeep to question him about the cult, but as soon as we come back to the surface, we find an NPC we meet in the first half of the adventure. This NPC made a deal with us months prior, both in-game and out-of-game, where she said, "I'll help you find what you need, but you'll owe me a favor." We accepted due to the railroad nature of the first campaign and didn't think much of it. This NPC then put a tracker on us and left. First of all, the tracker was never mentioned in the deal, and since our party didn't fancy having it on us, we decided to get rid of it. We spent a month on a boat traveling from Waterdeep to the Sea of Moving Ice. During the trip, we did a cycle of Dispel Magic and Detect Magic every day to see if the trackers were still on us. After a few days, the master says, "The trackers are gone. You don't sense any magic coming from you." And yet here she is in all her glory. She just found us and she wants to kill the leader we have in custody before he can spill the beans. The master says, "You see a figure coming out of the woods with a following of 5 other people, and you recognize her." By the master, I'm assuming they mean like DM, Dungeon Master. I don't know anybody that actually actively uses like Game Master or Dungeon Master. It's just always DM. Or GM. I've never even said Dungeon Master. I feel like saying Dungeon Master sounds like I don't know, like a proper title for like a BDSM dungeon. "Oh, Dungeon Master, I've been a bad tiefling. Please punish me." Something like that. Nobody clipped that, by the way. I'll get angry if you clip that. At that point, we decide to flee instead of confronting her, so we take a random direction and start running. Only problem is, every single one of us steps on a mine that kills our horses and incapacitates 2 of us. At the table, we start looking at each other, kind of confused, but we don't say anything. The NPC says, "Let me kill him and I'll let you go." And reluctantly, we let her do the thing, knowing that we were heading to Waterdeep, a city full of powerful wizards and clerics that are being reunited to fight the cult itself. We reach the city and start looking for a cleric that can help us. Apparently, the only person that is able to help us is some shady merchant that is also the only potion seller in Waterdeep with absurd prices. His prices are 500 gold coins times question, and we don't have that kind of money since every time we try to sell gems or valuable items, we only get 30% of the actual value. At best, we could ask 5 questions, and that's using all our money. We notify him that we are working for the council and that these questions are of extreme value as they could save the Sword Coast. The reply we get is, "Who says I want to stab that?" At the table, we look at each other kind of confused, and we reply with a, "What?" He goes on saying, "If the Sword Coast gets destroyed, I'll have more souls for myself." My backstory involved being a harper. The DM suggested it, and I thought it could be fun. So the first thing I think is, I should definitely notify my superiors about the shady guy who lives in the shady house who wants to destroy the world. I go talk to them, and words can't come out of my mouth. If I try to mention anything about it, I can't. I try to write, and nothing. Can't even point at the map to signal his location. At that point, my superiors think I'm making fun of them, rather than assuming I'm under some kind of spell. These harpers are truly masterminds. Wait, so you have an NPC say, "I don't mind if the world gets destroyed, nya, 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 nya," and then you just, what, magically ban the player so that they can't talk to anybody about it? What kind of nonsense is that? Why even spill the beans if you're then gonna have to put a spell on somebody so that they can't spill the beans? What is that? Just be a smart bad guy and don't say anything in the world. Simple as that. If the shop owner just didn't open their mouth and say something, they wouldn't have to put on a weird spell and put a character in a weird situation where they just have to kind of just go, You know? Last thing to try is asking for monetary help to the Council of Waterdeep. They hired us, and we sent a flying castle crashing down, halting the cult's plan for months. The leader of the Order of the Gauntlet offers to pay himself. We get there, and the shady guy is nowhere to be seen. But we established he was also the potion seller, so we go talk to him. The guy tells us that he doesn't want to speak to any faction leader. Also, good job, Morrow, for not recording this part, you idiot. At that point, I'm just frustrated. I feel like it shouldn't be that hard to ask questions, after all, and the whole reason we got sent out in the first place. We ask for money directly from the faction leader, enough for 5 questions. We go in and set them on the counter. After all is done, we found out nothing. No new information, no new names, all stuff we already know, and a bunch of, I don't know enough about this, and maybe. So we wasted a whole session trying to get answers from a guy who knew nothing despite being a cult leader, who, mind you, was willing to talk when he was in life. My character made himself a fool in front of his faction and all our horses blew up. It was our first campaign and I have many stories from it if I could share. I know now better, but still wanted to share this story with you. Sounds like your DM doesn't really know what they're doing, or they have like a specific plan that is just way too annoying to follow. Listen, as a DM, you have to really think about whether your plot points or whether annoying things you put in are worthwhile to have. Having to pay some ridiculous shopkeeper to answer questions, but the only response you can get is, I don't know, maybe. That's not worthwhile. It's not gonna make anybody feel satisfied. It's just a great way just to kind of railroad somebody into a stop and force them to not progress. Players are gonna get bored. They're not gonna know what to do. You gotta throw them a little bit of a bone at that point. If you just say, I don't know, and that counts as a question, or maybe, or I don't know anything about that, then that's not an answer. Give them something tangible, like a lead that can go to. Say, under the sewers, maybe, in this place, under this one palace, maybe that could be something tangible. But don't just say, I don't know, and maybe. Maybe's an I don't knows you can't do anything with. The players are forced to try to read the DM's mind, but they can't, and it makes the game suck. Don't do that sort of thing. And I hope the player got themselves out of the situation, especially if the DM just keeps doing that again and again and again, and then just adding some people that tracking them but don't track them, but now they suddenly attack them and put mines on the grounds and blew up their horses to kill some guys they're supposed to get, and it's just a mess, dude. It's a mess. Let's get a brain cleanser and go to the next story for today. Dumbass DM ruined my character's backstory and the campaign. If somebody starts off the title with such a charged, kind of semi-aggressive title, I don't know, maybe they're just upset and angry, or maybe they're just saying the DM is crappy because something didn't work out in their favor, I don't know. So I was playing in my usual D&D group a couple of months ago. Our group's that guy ended up DMing. We were concerned but couldn't really complain since our forever DM was burnt out and that guy already had a campaign in a wing. I rolled up an orc and wanted to play as a fighter, and the DM said, orcs are uncivilized, so they can't be fighters. They have to be either druids or barbarians if you want to do that route. This is after he told me we can create our own homelands and cultures for our characters. I felt that this was railroady by it and gave me a second thought about this campaign, but I didn't listen to my gut when I should have. I accepted it and chose to be a barbarian. I then asked him if there was anything else about orcs I need to know for this campaign, and he said, not that I can think of. Is fighter really that civilized? I think any class can be civilized or uncivilized. I mean, it's just really weird to not allow fighter. Fighter, anybody can be a fighter. Literally, anybody can be a fighter. I mean, anybody can be any class, but I mean, there's a little bit of implications with someone like wizards study magic, warlocks get their magic from the patrons, and sorcerers just born with it. Maybe they're born with it, maybe it's Maybelline. But fighters, anybody can just pick up a stick and just go bunk. The only difference between fighter and barbarian is that barbarian goes roar, bunk. Fighter just goes punk, and that's it. Am I missing something? So we started playing in this small human elf town. I made the other party members at the typical tavern intro, where my presence in the tavern becomes noticeably bothersome to the NPCs. A couple of guys approach us and say, we don't take too kindly to your people around here, as they begin drawing the weapons. And now we're in combat with a bunch of drunks who hate orcs. This would have been interesting if we didn't walk out of the tavern and go down the street to check out the shops. We were greeted with the same level of hostility. All because I was an orc. By the end of the first session, We had left the town without a quest and leveled up due to all the randos we had to kill that attacked us. After the session, we all had some good food, but the DM did say, "I'm surprised you haven't murdered more people yet, Mr. Orc," as he laughed. The only time he had to murder people is because you sick people on him. As a DM, you get to choose who they encounter and who decides to attack him for the sake of attacking him. If you make a bunch of NPCs attack the Orc, yeah, the Orc is gonna fight back. And the party's probably gonna back him up because they're like, look at these jerks. They just want to attack him because he's what? Green, mean fighting machine? I'm assuming he's a green orc. Could be different orcs. Could be. Is there such thing as a purple orc? That'd be very pretty. Anyway, sorry. I'm getting distracted. Let's get back to the story. The next few sessions took place in a wilderness. We end up finding out about some secret dungeon in session 3 and explored it. And by explored it, I mean the DM railroaded us through it because he didn't prepare any rooms that we weren't supposed to explore. We found a rusted magic sword that needed its power restored to reveal a secret to the party. So we left and went to the city. My character wore a hood and kind of kept his head down to avoid any orc haters that might attack us. But unfortunately, that wasn't enough. DM had me roll a stealth check, to be fair. I did roll a 4 on, so people started seeing that I was an orc. Men looking at me with hate and women looking at me with fear. But no one attacked us yet, so we ended up going to the city's temple where the 2 holy order knights stopped us and said they wouldn't allow that vile orc into the temple where he could get his hands on the good women of the city. Oh my god. Dude, what is this DM? This DM is like a freaking cartoon villain. Jesus Christ. I think I know where he is going with this. At this point, I started thinking, oh crap, is he going there with this? So I had my character sort of defend himself to make it clear that my character is not like that. "Me not the kind of orc," asked what the comment was supposed to mean. The guard then angrily said, "You savages are a threat to all women you encounter. Go on, get. We don't want a bunch of half-orcs running around in 9 months." Now, I stupidly assumed that this was still just in-game prejudiced people, so I had my character explain himself. "I wish you wouldn't make such a crass assumptions about my people. I'm a family man with a wife. A human wife and 2 half-orc daughters born from our loving marriage. I would fight to the death to protect the women of the city. So enough with your foolish assumptions." DM then told me to roll a deception check. I looked at him confused as to why he would have me roll deception. Everything I just said was true and part of my backstory that I sent the DM, which to be clear, he looked at for 2 seconds before saying, "Yeah, I'm not reading all of that." Oh my god, if the DM says I'm not reading all of that, say fuck you buddy, I ain't playing in your shit then. If the DM is actually outright not gonna read any single bit of your backstory that you sent them, then fuck them. Fuck them and just don't play with them. "Yeah, I'm not reading that." What a disrespectful thing to do. A player has actually wanted to put together a backstory for their character because they want their character to matter in the world. They really gave it a big thinky trying to figure out how the character meshes in this world. And for the DM to just say, "Yeah, I'm not reading that," you should just bow it out, trusted your gut feeling, and left immediately. DMs that don't care for players' involvement in any way at all. These are the kind of people to avoid because these are sort of DMs that want to make story about themselves and no story in a big, great, big world. Here's the thing, right? It's a very simple equation. Main characters, player characters. The DM, the world. Everybody, all players playing together. If the DM don't care for main characters shouldn't care for the world, and therefore game shouldn't happen. Because simple as that, if your character has no relevance and nothing that the character has or does or part of the backstory has no material existence in the presence of the game's world, then what's the point of being involved and being into the game in the first place? If your actions and your backstory and your motivations don't matter in the game, don't play this stupid game. This game is stupid, this game is dumb, the DM sucks, clearly you should avoid him, should have trusted your gut feeling on it, and not play with them. What a prick! DM then just kind of laughed and said, "Why did you put in your backstory? This isn't Shrek. The big green monster doesn't fall in love with a human." I then asked him how he thinks half-orcs are made, and then he just said, "Same way orcs do anything, by force." I then am feeling kind of pissed off, but still trying to hold back, so I ask him, "So let me get this straight. I make an orc, specifically ask what I need to know about orcs in this homebrew, you don't say anything, and now you tell me orcs can only reproduce through that?" DM then said, "It's not homebrew. This is literally just how orcs are in any edition of D&D. You're lucky I even let you play as one. Most of the time, they're just a monster archetype. Maybe in the older editions, sure, I could see that. But even the freaking book says, hey, ignore part of it or all of it that we wrote in. Involve stuff in it, build off lore, make your own lore, do whatever. The book literally encourages you to rewrite part of the lore for your game as you see fit that fits your campaign and your situation. Because guess what? Not every campaign is going to be the same as the other campaign. I recently watched a show regarding Planes of Hell. Some people saw it as like a big thing of discs, basically. It's like the top layer and the bottom layer. But another person decided to create their levels of hell and their realms of hell as a bunch of planets circling around a gas giant. And that sounded really cool. If you want to rewrite parts of the D&D lore to fit into your world's lore, then do it. You can make your orcs big green monsters if you want to, or you can make him just a regular person like anybody else with slight bit anger issues, or you can make him an alien race like they did in World of Warcraft. I'm bringing up World of Warcraft because they have some of the coolest lore that I've ever heard about, where orcs literally come from another planet and they arrive to Earth or to Azeroth through a demon gate, and that's how they are there. And it's so cool. And now orcs are an actual thing in there because through demon meddling and stuff. And it's so awesome. Your orcs don't have to be the same as books orcs or any other. I tell them that orcs haven't been these one-dimensional struggle, snuggle, and murder monsters for a while now, and even provide sources. And DM just brushes me off and says, this is bullcrap. Oh, this is late 5e lore added after the company went woke, and I ain't playing woke D&D. I understand some people don't like the new editions and the rewrites for some of this stuff, but like the books even say, ignore as much of it as you want, rewrite and omit as much of it as you want. Your games can be whatever you want it to be. If you want your games to be like, like the old editions or older edition lore, go for it, do so. This is not an attack on the commenter themselves, but I had somebody say that unless you're playing anything outside of first edition options of like human, elf, dwarf, half-elf, halfling, anything half-orc, anything other than the initial baseline options is basically woke. So playing a kobold or drow or centaur or triton or anything, basically anything other than the baseline is woke somehow. Like, listen, if you don't like the new D&D 5e stuff that's being rewritten for some of the races, fine, then have it in your world, in your lore, they're playing a specific way and stuff. But the biggest thing here is not the lore. The biggest problem here is when the player asks the DM about anything they should know about orcs in their world, the DM probably should let them know that this is how I'm running orcs, that they're savage beasts and they struggle, snuggle, and they basically want to conquer and stuff. So the player knows ahead of time not to pick that option because they're going to be getting gimped and basically screwed over in any sort of social situations. But the DM said nothing. The DM didn't even mention anything at all. Didn't give him any world lore about orcs or the disposition, world, or anything like that. And because the DM failed to communicate with the player, that's why this situation even turned up in the first place. And at the end of the day, it's the DM's fault for allowing the player to choose to play an orc without letting him know ahead of time the disposition that orcs are going to have. Not every game is going to have the same amount of orc or the same type of orc. Me not the kind of orc kind of thing, Some orcs are fine. Not just rabid savages that just want to pillage and burn things. I'm now getting heated, and I tell them that this has been lore for a while, even before the whole 2020 woke D&D discourse, and I explained that it was never canon, even before 5e, that half-orcs were all products of struggle snuggle. It was more of an assumption. Now, they wouldn't even make logical sense for all orcs to be like that. My argument fell on deaf ears, as the DM refuses to listen as he is getting mad too, and just says, look, I'm not trying to argue. I'm the DM here. No human woman willingly is gonna screw a goddamn orc. Get over it. You should have thought of that before you played as one. If you want, I can have these knights kill you on a spot, and you can roll up a new character. Does this DM know there's a whole demographic for that sort of thing? For orc guys and orc ladies specifically, muscly orc girls. I know so many dudes that are like, God, I wish a muscly orc girl that's like 7 feet tall would just destroy me up on her washboard abs or something. Like, actually, unironically, there's a whole demographic of people being really into orc dudes or orc ladies. What is this DM talking about? But at this point, my desire to play D&D has completely evaporated, so I just said, fine, kill him then. Which he did, and then there was kind of a pause as no one knew what to do from there after the awkward exchange and obvious tension in the air. DM just called it for the night and we went home, upon which I informed the DM that I would not be playing in the campaign. About a month later, the campaign sort of fell apart, and the DM sucked, clearly, as he had a tendency to railroad the players. He was also lazy as hell. but he had made some interesting lore bits, so Forever DM decided to retire his character and pick up the campaign, and it improved dramatically. Bad DM had also rolled up a new character, but left the campaign shortly after because he felt that the Forever DM was ruining his lore. He also let it slip that he blamed me for why the campaign ended. A couple of weeks later, I got over my own frustrations with how the campaign went and rejoined as a Tiefling Cleric. Hell yeah! Well, OP, I wish you nothing but the best with the new campaign, and have fun playing a Tiefling Cleric. I mean, listen, Tieflings get their own predisposition in the world, like some people see them as evil monsters, and I kind of find that cool. I think it's pretty neat. I don't mind that lore, I actually like that lore in general. But I mean, like I said, your game's world with whatever creatures or worlds or magic and whatever, it's not gonna be the same, like, lore-wise for somebody else's game. Your lore is your lore alone. Your world's lore is unique to your world lore. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, the book even says, hey, listen, use our lore as guidance, but feel free to omit, ignore, or rewrite any part of the lore to fit your world. Homebrew the hell out of your world and build cool lore for your world that you find interesting and your players can find interesting too. Work together with your players to build lore for your world that everybody can have a blast in. Might as well. Your lore is however you make it, so just have fun making your own lore. It doesn't matter how if it matches what old school lore is like. Who cares? Your world's gonna be different from somebody else's world, so make your own lore. Change your own lore. Change existing lore to fit your world. Do whatever you want, dude. It's freaking fantasy, make-believe TTRPG stuff. Have fun with it. Make your own grounded lore that you want to make. Whether it be something old school or something new school. Do whatever you want as long as you and your players are having a good time. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.